Hi everyone. Today I'm going to try something new, and that is to record a Zoom on my own. This is one that I will give this Thursday at the American Vegan Center in Old City, Philadelphia, where Van Slemkool is the director. And so that should be very exciting. Go down to Philadelphia and do a slideshow on, Ann Dinshaw had requested that this one be on the topic of, if we don't eat cows, will they go extinct? Oh, the horror, right? So let's see if we can share screen. Okay, let's see if I can be getting the hang of this here. There we go. Okay. I'm seeing a little screen of myself, so I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm moving around the screen and see if I can kind of make it less of an obstruction to the slideshow. All right, let's see if we can go ahead and save the cows. That's the cover slide here. Save the cows. If we don't eat them, they go extinct. That is a picture of me meeting Herbie for the animal sanctuary quite a few years back now, obviously in the wintertime. Obviously, I was very cold, but the cows were doing fine, and they seemed happy to see me. Second, this is really practice hour here. All right, this will be produced and presented by Lee Hall in Philadelphia on the 11th of April, 2024, for the American Vegan Society Ethics Series. And thank you for the planning support, Ann Dinshaw, Van Slemkool, and Philip Murphy. So Herbie was, one of the scant few to receive refuge, to receive protection. And when we talk about happy cows, this is about as happy as as a cow, you can find a cow, right? You don't find cows too much happier than Herbie. But sort of like, the one turkey that gets saved by the president, has presidential pardon or something, most of the cows, of course, aren't in refuges. We take their milk, they bellow for days, mourning the calves who we turn into the $7.99 veal special. And one day, the dairy cows, like the beef cattle before them, go in slotted trucks to slaughter. These realities aren't secrets. And we do wonder this, right, about people who have not made a commitment to stop using animal products. Why do people have trouble perceiving those really disturbing truths? Why do people have trouble perceiving them? If we can't perceive something, we can't act to rectify it, right? We don't perceive that it's an injustice or terrible oppression. And of course, one reason we have trouble perceiving them is that there has been propaganda exercise going on from generation to generation throughout the centuries now. Somehow bless us with cognitive dissonance so that we can go through life as a human and with other humans and not question. We have these conflicting realities, and we pretend that only one is real, and that's the fantasy. But to an extent, I would say that we all, including, I think, including most vegans, have trouble perceiving what we do to cows. I think that sometimes when we're asked these, what we say, silly question, right? Like cows, if we don't eat them, they'll go extinct. We say, well, that's a silly thing to say, and kind of write it off, don't we? If we think about it, do we have an answer for that? Do we as vegans perceive the domination that we wield over other beings? And rescue is an aspect of dominion. We need to offer refuge to refugees. That's what a social movement does, and veganism is a social movement. We don't turn away refugees if we can help it, right? We do what we can. But we need to understand that these beings are indeed that, refugees from our dominion. And that if we see them as kissable or cute, that's an issue for us. And there are questions we need to ask ourselves about that, our perceptions. Is this picture, which apparently the author, it's not necessary to know what's in the book. I'm actually judging it by its cover right here. And my assumption here is it's talking about, the good feelings between a child and a cow that's being exploited in this picture, apparently by the child. That must be a milk pail, right? Is this picture cute or jarring? What about the evolution and the history that this cow could have had if we had let this cow's ancestors be who they were? Do we ask this question? Or do we just say, hugging and kissing is what we should be doing with cows instead of eating them? Should we be doing anything with cows? Is our concern about the extinction of cows, or are the free ancestral cows already gone? Are they already extinct by the time that bred to this point? Will the illustrator tell the kids that selective breeding deprived cows of their freedom one generation at a time? Selective breeding deprived cows of their freedom one generation at a time. Now they are dependent on us. So whether they're in commercial settings, as these ones are, or if they are in refuges, there are no number tags in their ears, they're still dependent on us throughout their lives because of we've bred that dependency into them. We need to acknowledge that. The ancient aurochs. I won't describe this being, but looking at this picture, this is what comes to mind. Is this being understanding what we have done, telling us humans have robbed me of my evolution, my communities, my existence. I'm extinct. My community is extinct. My species is extinct already. And you can never bring the aurochs back. These are the free living ancestors of the cows that we know today. The aurochs carved paths through the woodlands and the steppes of Europe, North Africa, and Asia for hundreds of thousands of years. Hundreds of thousands of years. In the early 17th century, we, the humans, ended it all. The last living aurochs died in Poland, likely, according to the Encyclopedia of Dairy Sciences, killed by poachers. Today we graze cattle on the remnants of grasslands their ancestors shaped. Did we break an ancient law of nature, forcing their ancestors to reproduce generation by generation to smaller, more manageable beings? As a whole, what we've done, Earth's land mammals by weight, we have turned a planet teeming with autonomous, evolving life into a world where the untamed cling to nooks and crannies as one dominator species covers the earth with its livestock and pets. And you see the artist's graphic here showing the weight on the face of the earth. And you see Earth's land mammals by weight, and you notice most of them are, it's the weight of the biomass of the cattle. And then in the center of the circle, the dark blue, that's the weight of human body mass on the face of the earth. It's quite a lot. And then you see the pigs and the goats, the sheep and the horses. And look at the tiny little green boxes. Elephants, one tiny green box. All those tiny green boxes are what's left of the free living animals and their body weight on the face of this planet. So basically, we and the animals we breed into a dependent existence has sidelined the free living to the point where they're basically clinging to nooks and crannies of the earth, those spaces that we haven't yet figured out a way to usurp for ourselves. Now, I want to take us back to 1951. Veganism defined. And I'll read from it. Veganism is not so much welfare as liberation for the creatures and for the mind and heart of man. Yeah, it's 1951 language. Humanity. Not so much an effort to make the present relationship bearable as an uncompromising recognition that because it is, in the main, one of master and slave, it has to be abolished. The present relationship has to be abolished. When we think of that, the question, will cows go extinct, takes on a completely different aspect, doesn't it? Because what we have now are dependent beings, not an ancestral community, not a community of beings, not the aurochs who would evolve on their terms without our meddling. Another interesting graphic about the little QR codes show where they've got graphics. See not only the credits of the graphics, but also the studies behind them. Only 6% of the combined weight of mammals on Earth is free living. Only 6%. And the sub-caption, heavy imbalance, the biomass of humans, livestock, pets, and wild animals, illustration, Tarave. All right, so now we see domesticated animals is the red, 630 million tons. Domesticated animals, weight on Earth, 630 million. For us, wow, 390 million tons, humans. and free living animals, just 60 million tons. And that includes, the elephants and blue whales. Notice the deer being held up by as the free living, and how heavy. There's an implication there that deer, because of the changes we have made, certain free living animals are now expanding in their weight, in how much weight they take up on the earth. And famously, people complain and say there are too many deer, but we have caused that because we like to wipe out predators so that they don't remove any of our animals that we've turned into commodities, that we've dominated, domesticated, selectively bred. We don't want the big carnivores around because they might take the sheep or the chicken or the pig, right? So what happens is all kinds of unexpected things, like lots of deer, which there are sometimes vegans say, oh, they're not. Well, there are not too many deer. I mean, I agree. We should defend the deer in their numbers, but to really do that, dealing with reality, we need to advocate for an entire predator-prey relationship, an entire balanced biocommunity that the deer would be a part of. That means we need to do coyote coexistence initiatives. We need to defend wolves. We need to let them balance themselves out, free and apart from our constant interference and control. Back to 1951 and veganism defined. In a vegan world, the creatures would be reintegrated within the balance and sanity of nature, the word sanity originally meaning health of nature. A great and historic wrong whose effect upon the course of evolution must have been stupendous, was righted. This is veganism defined, and it focuses on what we have done to their evolution, to their existence, to their communities. The idea that his fellow creatures might be used by humanity, for self-interested purposes would be so alien to human thought as to be almost unthinkable. So this is therapy cows, you say? This is from a few years ago, actually, but I mean, it's you see goat yoga, you see therapy cows. A little concerned about it all, particularly that these cows are not they're not in a refuge doing yoga either. They're in a commercial setting, and these students, they're saying that they go to see this bunny, is this cow's name. Notice the number on the ear and the chain around this poor being's neck. And this is love, apparently. I mean, this is huggy, smoochy, kissy. But the student is here the students come in here. There's a video on the website too of students, filing in, paying their $10 each to spend 30 minutes per student with a cow. And this cow named Bunny. And this is about stress reduction for the human. But this is what we do. I mean, we've done this to dogs, famously, and a number of other animals. I think, swimming with the dolphins is a little bit like this, isn't it? But if we can get domesticated animals into become our therapy pets, basically it's the exploitation is as complete as it gets, isn't it? It's not love. 1951, veganism defined. Veganism is, in truth, an affirmation that where love is, exploitation vanishes. That can't be love. Therapy cows. Maybe well-meaning if we don't perceive domination and oppression. That's the issue. What do we perceive? How far do our perceptions take us along the route of truth? An affirmation that where love is, exploitation vanishes. I did this on my website, Vegan Place blog, a couple years ago. Another example of the same thinking, that we wouldn't want to see them go away. And if we didn't eat them, you know, would we still have little lambs? It's another example. And if you see look at a lot of vegan literature, again, well-meaning, but vegan literature itself tends to feature a lot of cute lambs, huggable cows, and so forth. So what message is it that vegans are giving others and ourselves about these animals? And the brochure, the campaign material is well-meaning. Its point is, you know, how could you eat an innocent lamb? And I agree with that. I mean, how could you be indifferent to this face? How could you say, yeah, so I'll take the rack of lamb? And yet, every time we see the cute lamb, including in vegan literature, vulnerability is further embedded in our collective psyche unless we question it. You know, here is the free living, by the way, they're still around. The free living ancestors of sheep are not extinct. Some of them are still on the face of the earth. And it's very important that we defend them. That's who we don't want. We don't want to let them go extinct because of our activities. They are the ones we need to defend. The sheep who are, you know, purpose bred for commercial purposes need to be phased out. That will be according to the vegan definition as I'm reading it. Now, we don't want to make the present relationship bearable, but we need to abolish it before a better humanity can come about. Sheep were forcibly bred by humans since before 10,000 before the current era. So, you know, that's like around 12,000 years ago, right? That's how long we've been messing with them, with their biological integrity. Muflon, or the ancestral community is Muflon. They evolved on their terms around the Caspian Sea. Now they're considered threatened because we push them in, you know, into those little green boxes, right? Face of the earth, while we have continually taken up more and more space with ourselves, our bodies, our needs and wants, and our purpose-bred animals, crowding them out. Now they're considered threatened. And I talk about them as communities. Like I talk about the ancestral aurochs, the ancestors of the cows, as cultures. I think we need to do this. We need to know that the refugees from domination in the sanctuaries that we see are just that, refugees, because their culture was forcibly displaced from the face of the earth. And here in Science, this is the 2018, so Brett Jesmer is the lead author, is ungulate migration culturally transmitted evidence of social learning from translocated animals. Ungulates, of course, being hoofed animals, so that would be deer, sheep, elk, etc. And just one sentence from this scientific journal article. Our findings indicate that learning and cultural transmission are the primary mechanisms by which ungulate migrations evolve. Loss of migration will therefore expunge generations of knowledge. It's very interesting because people have said, well, why can't you just move the rams from this place in Alberta so that we can build this, ski resort? No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't just move animals. They lose their homes, their territories that they've evolved on for hundreds of years. You wreck that knowledge, that culture, what they share from generation to generation, so then they know how to surf the foliage that they need, and they learn, and their cultural transmission evolves around that sharing in places where they've transmitted their knowledge generation after generation. This is adapted from my book, On Their Own Terms, Animal Liberation for the 21st Century, and I think it's a good way to conclude here. Vegan principle does not challenge us to integrate them into pleasant scenery or human friendships, and certainly not therapy cows. It challenges us to stop breeding them into a dependent existence. Veganism perceives that other animals are not our babies, not our housemates or helpmates, that domesticated or trained animals are limited, not perfected, that the freedom of living beings in habitat without any need to seek human rescue or shelter or companionship is a healthy thing to want, and that the lack of it is not. And finally, I'd like to thank patrons of the studio for the Art of Liberation on Patreon, patreon.com/Lee Hall to find the studio. Thank you to Chris Kelly, Pamela Page, Jamie, Stephen Jackson Mazurk, Mauro Reese, and Lydia Grossoff, Nancy Kogel, Annie Taylor, Jenny Stein, Bill Drellis, Valerie McGowan, Charlotte Cressy, Deb Thompson, Michael Herron, Marianne Barron, Ellen Eckert, Maureen Sheener, Jesse Farrell, Lois Baum, Kathy Zager, Carol Lutter, Heather Steele, Mary Jo Winkus, Kath Potijo, Amanda Crow, Project Animal Freedom, thank you, Kay Conacher, Michael Zager, and Luann McDonald, Aurora Cooney, Kathy Bird. Special thanks to former cattle farmer Harold Brown. We've had many conversations on cows, and Harold has enlightened me many times. Thanks to all who showed up for this coming Thursday. This is dress rehearsal. The American Vegan Society today, supporting the vegan movement. This will be presented on Thursday, April 11th, 2024 at the American Vegan Center in Old City, Philadelphia. Appreciate American Vegan Society for hosting. Appreciate the studio, all the patrons for making projects like this happen.